In Exodus 19, after God had delivered Israel out of Egypt, the people found themselves standing at the foot of Mount Sinai. And perhaps they all wondered what they were going to do now. They were free from being slaves, but what would they now become? And I think in verse 4, the Lord gives us an answer. He says, "You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." Now, surely those words would have been shocking to them. In the ancient world, the priests were the ones who represented the gods or made the gods known to the people. And usually, like in Egypt, that role was special and set apart for royalty and the ruling class. But here, God turns things upside down by saying to a multitude of slaves that you will be a kingdom of priests and you will be a holy nation. In other words, you are the ones who will make my glory known by becoming a whole nation set apart for me. But while things seemed promising at first, Israel ultimately failed in that role as God's image-bearing representatives. Rather than make God known to the nations, they adopted the other nations' gods, becoming just like the people around them, until finally they found themselves enslaved once again. But God didn't give up on his promises. When Jesus came into the world, he began liberating people not from oppression of Rome, but from the powers of sin. And in a similar way, Jesus called his followers to be God's special representatives, saying, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations." And reflecting on that calling, the Apostle Peter says this to us. And here's our memory verse for the week. "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who's called you out of the darkness and into his marvelous light." See, like Israel being freed from slavery in Egypt, we have been set free from sin. But just as Israel's story didn't end at the foot of Mount Sinai, our story doesn't end at the foot of the cross. We're not just freed from something, but for something. Freed to become that kingdom of priests and that holy nation. Freed to make God known by the lives that we live and the words that we speak. And so how will you make God known this week? How will you proclaim the excellencies of the one who called you out of the darkness and into his marvelous light?